It's I'm supposed to be at work by 5. I'm gonna give you a heads up. I'm a minute late right now, and I'm probably gonna be like 10 minutes late in total, depending on how fast everybody moves here in traffic. When it's like hot and muggy like this, in Florida, I expect rain. It tends to come with the territory. It's really hot. Rain seems to follow. In 38 years, I've never owned a raincoat or an umbrella because, like, typically when when it rains, I'm always somewhere. I never have to go anywhere. Yesterday, I had my section was on the outside deck with no awning or cover or whatever, and it started to rain, like a light rain for like a good 45 minutes, which rendered me like completely useless for that time period. So I wasn't getting any tables or anything like that. And then it cleared up before the sun went down. And for the next hour and a half that I was at work or we were open, then I got a flood of tables. That's how it normally works. But yeah, it's just how it works here in Florida. Kind of expected. Traffic looks like this. Looks like that up there. But it looks like that here. And over there. Always something. The before the chaos.
432. Yeah. Like, give me, I'm extra hands. I'm gonna follow the camera.
Oh, yeah? Shit used to piss me off when I was with this one. Welcome back, everybody. I thought this time we would talk about some restaurant operations. And again, just to reiterate from some of my older videos, I have been working in the restaurant industry for over 20 years. I have literally done every job that there is, from the back of the house to the front of the house. I've been a kitchen manager, worked my way up from a dishwasher all the way up to prep, cook, all that stuff, expo, and then became a kitchen supervisor, and then eventually kitchen manager. I've become a front of the house. I started off as a server in the front of the house and worked my way up to a head server really quick, like 6 months. And then I became a front of the house manager, and I've been a AGM and a GM and everything. Oh, a marketing director, marketing intern, all of it. All coincides with the operation. I've always been overly obsessed about operating restaurants, especially like the processes, and every person that I've worked for, or every concept that I've worked for, has been great by allowing me to pick and probe at their process to see what works, what doesn't work. And it really is, that part really was the fun part for me, as far as like getting to play with components. When I say components, I mean different staff trying out things that are outside of the norm when it comes to training. And it's a lot like sports for me. Like I love basketball. I play basketball. It's when you get to mix out, it's like you get to sub out other people, put in new people to see if that chemistry works or not. And I'm doing that kind of like a college for myself, so that way one day when I start my own food concept, then I won't make the mistakes I would have made had I gone it alone. So yeah, I'm pretty much in that spectrum now. I have been serving for 4 years now, I think. Good Lord. Time has flown. But I've been loving it because I get a lot more free time. I think every restaurant component is important. There is a particular job that I hold higher than the others, and I think it's a sleeper, position. I think you need a good manager for sure. That's an obvious choice, especially like when it comes to the front of the house. Definitely need a strong kitchen guy who can lead the kitchen line, orchestrate that kitchen, and get food out in a timely manner. Front of the house manager is the same thing, being able to staff correctly and fill into spots where you might be lacking. Got to have a good bartender, knows how to make drinks efficiently, all that stuff. I'm not discrediting any of these positions, but these are positions that are heavily sought after if you're in the business, because bartenders tend to make really good money depending on the concept, depending on where you're located. Servers can make really good money depending on the kind of server they are, and the concept and the population of the place that you're in. This one position, I think deserves more credit than it gets, and I'll stand by that tooth and nail. It's the hostess position. The hostess position is so underrated, in my opinion. And I've known concepts to kind of just like mentally breeze over it, or they do without the hostess for a while and just have like the servers or the manager would take turns running the host station. But I think that position demands a competent person, and a person that has really good people quality, who's very into hospitality, someone who can efficiently take reservations, messages for the company, and relay these messages. So you got to have good communication skills and being able to handle the rush when it comes, and nosy servers who come up to you and try to give you slack. Give you some sort of flack for not having enough tables, or trying to get themselves cut. You have a Karen coming at you, trying to figure out why they're not getting sat fast enough, or whatever those cases are. There's a lot on a hostess' shoulders that I think if you've never done it before can be definitely overlooked. I would definitely pay like top dollar to have a good hostess, a person who probably has had some serving experience, or someone who's had responsibility or managerial or clerical responsibilities before, to fill in that slot for all the reasons listed before. And on top of that, I would pay them a good wage. A lot of restaurants that I know would pay them like minimum wage, because they felt like anybody can do, like, stand up there and just greet tables. But that's not true. I think that the moment that the customer walks in to your concept, to your restaurant concept, that starts the experience for your consumer. And that's very important. From the timeline that your customer walks in to the timeline to the end when they leave, it needs to flow perfectly. And so as a former manager, I used to like include them in with my daily coaching, like, or what's it called when you get everybody around for like the lineup. That's what we call it, the lineup. When you talk to the servers, I bring them into it too, because there's a plan for everybody. You have to like reiterate and exemplify the things that are important for the day. And as my job, I congratulate my staff on the things they do good, and then the things that we need to focus on to get better, to become greater. Because when that new group of employees come in, like for the next season, my old group can train them in what the standard is. And I keep that same mentality with my host stand. In the past, I've trained them to be like little me's, like little extensions to myself. Because if I can't get to a table, like, because when I used to work at a beach restaurant, typically I'd be like the one manager on, having to go put out fires here, put out fires there, do my rounds. But eventually, like, because I couldn't get to everybody, I would have a hostess or something like that do little odd jobs for me that I think I could trust them to do, and at the same time run the floor. And I've done that before. I would tell them if I knew I had to be in the kitchen because my kitchen was weak, I had already pre-coached my hostesses to watch the weight, tell them to sit the weight every 5 minutes, to give my kitchen some time. So a good hostess knows how to read a seating chart, knows how to read the kitchen, knows how to read their floor, knows when to ask me to go on a wait. Now, typically, that would be my call. But again, if I have that kind of connection with my hostesses, they'll know how to read me. Because I know some restaurants are like they're afraid of the waits to go on wait because they're afraid they're going to lose customers or whatnot. But my policy is generally I rather lose them at the door than lose them on the floor. Now, nobody wants to lose customers anyway, but in certain times when like you're not fully staffed in the kitchen or not fully staffed on the floor, you gotta pump the brakes at the door, and like it's almost like a line into a haunted house. Like you gotta let certain amount of people in to get the full effect, so that way they get a quality effect by the time they leave. So I do that whenever the situation calls for it. But at the same time, like they got to be competent enough to know that they just sat Mary Lou, so the next person who should get a table should be Barry C, and then skip over to the next person, and like so everybody has all your servers have a fair advantage at getting a table and making money. But some people can't do that. That is a position that they just kind of give somebody willing to work, it feels like, that kind of gets along with people, but like a normal person can read body language. And so if they can read that the hostess doesn't care about their job, is very short with the customer, where doing the minor things like getting a high chair or a booster seat for the customer, it seems like to be a problem, then that customer comes in with low expectations that maybe the rest of the restaurant runs that way. And again, that's very critical because they're just getting their foot into the door. Because I've seen also where that vibe has occurred and we lose them in the first step, and they go to the restaurant next door, they go talk crap and probably put something on TripAdvisor or any of the Google reviews or whatever about your unprofessionalism, and you don't want that because your owners are probably going to be looking at these and question what happened that day, and you don't want to answer for that. So, hostess position. Definitely get you a good hostess or two and train them up, and it's almost like figuring out who your point guard is going to be, because like one could be better than the other, but if the standard's so high that the secondary person doesn't seem like a bad fit, like in case one fell off or something like that, then I think you're doing something right. And then so at the same time, you're also training that person to be a server. So because typically most restaurants get underage kids, and then when they turn 18, they convert them into being a server, right? Well, I say you can go with somebody with more experience and pay them like $17 an hour. That might seem a little steep for some restaurants, but again, it's vital, especially if you yourself, as a manager or an owner or one of your managers can't stand at the front. They got to actually go around and look at the business and take care of fires all day long. Or your servers can't do it during the rush, or whatever the cases are. I'm willing to pay that extra amount of money, and even if it means bringing in my hostess a little later into the shift, because I know most restaurants they'll bring them in around 3-4 o'clock, just right before the rush occurs. Push them into 5:30 if that seems a little too steep. But a good hostess is hard to find, and a good hostess who's just as hospitable as a manager should be, that's a gem.